It always starts with that sentence. You're lucky I pay bills. He says it like a punchline, like a badge, like something I'm supposed to clap for. The first time he said it, we were standing in the kitchen, me in my scrubs, lunchbox still in my hand, him with a stack of envelopes spread out like playing cards on the table. Light bill, water bill, internet, mortgage statement. All the grown-up things nobody ever makes TikToks about. He slapped his hand down on the pile and looked at me with that half-smile. You're lucky I pay bills, Maya, he said. Without me, this little house would swallow you whole. On the outside, we look like a regular couple. 28, black, doing okay. I work long shifts at the clinic. He does contract work in construction. People see us pull into the driveway in our little gray car and think they must be doing all right. You don't see the way that sentence hangs in the air after he says it. Like a hook I'm supposed to hang my gratitude on. I laughed it off that first time. I pay bills too, I reminded him, trying to keep it light. My check doesn't bounce, you know. He rolled his eyes and opened the light bill with his thumb. Yeah, but I handle it, he said. You just tap your little card and hope there's money in there. Somebody has to be the grown-up. He said it jokingly, but there was a sharp edge under the joke. I felt it. It slid under my skin and stayed there. The house itself is small. 2 bedrooms, squeaky hardwood floors, an old pecan tree in the front yard that drops leaves like it's getting paid to. My grandma left it to me when she passed. Deed, key, the whole thing. At the funeral, people kept hugging me and saying things like, "At least you've got a roof she left you, baby. She made sure you'd be all right." Back then, I believed them. When I met Marcus, I'd already been living here a year. Paint still the same color my grandma picked. Curtains she sewed herself. That old floral couch everyone in the family had napped on at some point. He loved the house right away. Told me it felt solid. Told me he'd help fix things, bring it up to date. Told me a woman shouldn't have to worry about that kind of stuff. It sounded sweet at the time. When he moved in, it started with convenience. He was already at home during the day more than I was. Just put everything on autopay, he suggested. I'll set it up. You work crazy hours. You don't need to be stressed about due dates. I handed over login info because that's what you do when you think you're building a life with somebody. He set up the online banking on his phone. At first, he showed me everything. The app, the balances, what was coming out when. Then months went by, and I realized the only time I saw our money anymore was on the little white receipt from the gas station. At cookouts with his friends, the language shifted. "This my house," he would say, leaning back in the lawn chair, arms stretched along the backrest as if he was posing for a magazine. "You know how it is, man. Keeping a roof over everybody's head. Bills don't stop." The first time he said it that way, I was standing by the grill, putting hot dogs on a plate. I froze for a second, listening. My house. He didn't mean anything by it, I told myself. People talk like that. Men say my house when they really mean our house all the time, right? I dropped the hot dogs off at the table and pretended it didn't bother me. But then he started saying it to me. On good days it was a joke. "You better treat the chef right if you want to stay in my house." On bad days, it came out tight and sharp. Like the night I came home 5 minutes late from a shift that ran over, and he was already irritated because dinner wasn't on time. He followed me from the door to the kitchen, talking. "You always got some excuse," he said, pacing behind me while I took off my shoes. "Traffic, patience, extra charting. You know what doesn't get extra time? These bills. Every month they show up. Every month I gotta handle them. You're lucky I pay bills. Some men would have had you back at your mama's by now." He said it so matter-of-fact, it made my chest tight. "I pay the car note and the insurance," I reminded him quietly, putting my keys in the bowl by the door. "The groceries half the time. It's not like I'm sitting here doing nothing." He laughed without humor. "Groceries?" he said. "Girl, that's snacks. I'm talking about real bills. Mortgage, light, gas, the things that keep the house standing." I wanted to say, the house is standing because my grandma worked herself to the bone and signed her name on some papers before she died. But I didn't. I had never actually seen those papers. Just the copy she kept in a plastic folder in the hallway closet, somewhere between old Christmas decorations and a box of church fans. So I swallowed it. That's what I used to do best. Swallow, smooth, make peace. Over time, the sentence turned into a script. Whenever I questioned a big purchase he made, it came out. You're lucky I pay bills. You know how much this cost? If I mentioned the account dipping too low, it came out. You're lucky I pay bills. You think money just prints itself? If I dared suggest I handle one of the logins myself, it came out. You're lucky I pay bills. You don't even like numbers. He wasn't yelling most of the time. That was the confusing part. He'd say it in this calm, almost patient tone, like a teacher with a slow student. It made me feel small, childish, even when I was coming home with sore feet and a name badge that said LPN. Small things started to bother me. The way he would snatch the mail up before I could reach the box, because it's just junk anyway. The way he'd hold court at the kitchen table with the bills spread out, frowning dramatically so I could see how heavy it all was. The way he made jokes in front of my family about Maya would lose this place in a month if I didn't keep her straight, and everyone would half laugh, half look at me to see if I agreed. I didn't know yet that there were words for this. Financial control, economic abuse. Back then, it just felt like I was always one comment away from being reminded that my right to stand in this living room, sit on this couch, sleep in this bedroom was negotiable. Like he was the landlord and I was behind on rent I didn't remember agreeing to. One night, my auntie came by to drop off a pot of soup. Marcus wasn't home. We sat at the table, steam rising between us, kitchen light buzzing overhead. She'd lived in this neighborhood longer than I'd been alive. She knew what the house meant. "How y'all doing?" she asked, the way older black women ask when they're really asking everything else. "We're all right," I said automatically. She watched me for a second, then nodded toward the walls. "Your grandma would be proud you keeping the place up," she said. "You know she worked 3 jobs to get this deed in her name." A little chill went down my spine. "She never let nobody put their name on her house but the Lord," my auntie added with a small smile. She used to say that all the time. I smiled too, but my mind was racing. Somewhere between his bragging and my silence, the story had shifted in my own head. I'd started half believing the line. Like he was the one holding everything up. Like if he walked out the door, the roof might cave in. Sitting at that table, listening to my auntie talk about my grandma fighting to get her name on a deed, I felt a tiny crack form in that belief. He still came home that night, still tossed his keys on the table, and said, "You're lucky I pay bills," when he saw the new notice from the water company. I still rolled my eyes and let it slide. But later, after he fell asleep on the couch with the TV still on, I stood in the hallway closet with my phone flashlight, digging through plastic tubs and dusty boxes, fingers searching for a folder my grandma used to pat like it was something sacred. Deed. I didn't find it that night. All I found was dust, a moth-eaten Christmas stocking, and a sense that something about the story I'd been told, about who was lucky, about who this house belonged to, wasn't quite as simple as, "You're lucky I pay bills." Red flags don't always show up on your skin. Sometimes they come in white envelopes. About 2 weeks after that night in the closet, I start noticing how fast Marcus moves when he hears the mailbox lid clank. I'll be in the kitchen, rinsing dishes, and I'll hear the metal slap outside. Before I can dry my hands, I see him through the window, already halfway back from the street, flipping through envelopes, shoving them under his arm. "Anything for me?" I call out once, casual. "Nah," he says without looking up. "Just junk." I toss it. He disappears down the hallway with the stack. I tell myself I'm imagining things. That's my favorite lie. "You're overreacting, Maya. It's not that deep." But the pattern keeps repeating. Billboard, he always complains about bills. Reality, I almost never see one with my own eyes. One afternoon, I get home earlier than usual. My last patient canceled, so they let me off half a shift. The sun is still high, the neighborhood noisy with kids on bikes and somebody blasting old R&B from a car. I turn the corner and see the mail truck just pulling away from our house. Before I even park, I see it. Our mailbox door hanging open, a bundle of envelopes still sitting inside, like the mailman forgot to close it. Marcus's truck is gone. For once, I'm the first one home. I walk up to the box slowly, like it might bite me. It's ridiculous, but my heart is already beating faster. Inside, a grocery flyer, a coupon book, and 3 official-looking envelopes. One is from the light company, one from the bank. The third one is thick, off-white, from the county tax commissioner's office. My name is printed on all 3. Not Maya and Marcus. Not occupant. Just Maya Johnson. I tuck all of it under my arm and take it inside. For a long second, I just stand in the entryway, looking at the envelopes in my hand and the empty hallway in front of me. This is my house. My grandma's hallway. My name on the mail. So why do I feel like I'm about to get caught doing something wrong? I sit at the kitchen table, lay all 3 down, and start with the familiar one. Light bill. More than I thought, but nothing shocking. Due date circled in red by whoever processed it. I can almost hear Marcus's voice. You see how high this is? You lucky I pay bills. The bank envelope is a monthly statement. The numbers make me swallow hard. There's less cushion there than I thought. Way less. A couple of big withdrawals I don't recognize. Home Depot, some fancy restaurant I know I haven't been to. But it's the county envelope that makes my fingers shake. I open it carefully, tearing along the perforated edge. Inside is a property tax statement. Parcel number, legal description, millage rate, a lot of numbers that try to scare you before you even get to the bottom line. But my eyes get stuck halfway down, where it says, owner of record, Maya E. Johnson. Just my name. I blink, flip the page, looking for a second line, a second name. Nothing. I sit back in my chair. Something inside me, something that's been curled up in a corner for a long time, lifts its head. It's not news, technically. I know my grandma left me this house. I've heard every auntie and cousin say it ever since the funeral. But there's a difference between stories and print, between this is hers and seeing your full government name under owner of record. I pull my phone out and snap a photo of the tax statement, heart pounding like I'm doing something illegal. Then I fold it neatly and tuck it into the side pocket of my purse. Later that evening, Marcus comes home in full provider mode. He drops his keys on the table, kisses my cheek, sniffs the air. "What's for dinner?" he asks, already loosening his boots. "Chicken and rice," I say. "How was your day?" He shrugs, stretches his arms dramatically. "Long. Had to swing by the bank, too, pay some stuff." He says it loud enough like he's giving a performance. "You check the mail?" I ask, steady. He glances toward the counter, sees it empty. "Yeah." He lies without missing a beat. "Just junk." I tossed it. Something about the way he says tossed makes my skin crawl. I don't say anything. I stir the pot, pretend to be interested in the way the rice is bubbling. But inside, there's a file drawer sliding open. I mentally add a tab. Mail. County letter with my name. The next day at work, I can't stop thinking about that property tax statement. Every time I go into a patient's room and see their name on a chart, it flashes in my mind. Owner of record, Maya E. Johnson. During lunch, I'm sitting in the break room scrolling my phone when a flyer catches my eye on the bulletin board by the microwave. Free legal clinic, housing, family, money problems. Walk-ins welcome, Saturdays, 10 to 2. County Courthouse Annex. It's printed on cheap paper, the kind that curls at the edges, but the words stick. Money problems, housing. I always assumed legal clinic was for people in huge trouble. Evictions, arrests, things too big to say out loud. Not for people like me who just have questions, but the way Marcus's voice echoes in my head, my house, my bills, makes the word questions feel a lot heavier. On a random Saturday when Marcus says he's going to help a friend with a job, I tell him I'm going to run a few errands. It's not a lie. I park in front of the courthouse annex, stomach full of butterflies. The building looks more tired up close. Faded seal over the door. Steps worn smooth in the middle, where thousands of shoes have climbed them before mine. Inside, a security guard scans my bag, slides it back with a practiced smile. "Legal clinic?" I ask. "Down the hall, second door on the right," he says. "I'll take care of you." Take care of you. Funny how those words can sound different depending on whose mouth they come from. In Marcus's mouth, they always came with a price. In this quiet fluorescent hallway, they sound almost neutral. The clinic is just a big room with folding tables, laptops, and stacks of forms. Volunteers and name tags move around with clipboards. It smells like coffee, paper, and a little bit of fear. A woman at the front table smiles when I walk in. "Hey there, you here for the clinic?" she asks. "Yeah," I say, feeling suddenly like a kid on the first day of school. I have some questions about my house." She hands me a short intake form. Name, address, what kind of problem I'm dealing with. I freeze at the line that says, "Are you afraid of physical harm?" I hover over the yes, no boxes. Marcus has never hit me. He slammed doors, punched walls, backed me into corners with his voice, but his hands have never landed on my skin. I check no, then add a small note under other concerns. Husband says house is his. Says I'd be homeless without him. But property tax letter has only my name. I don't understand what that means legally. When my name is called, I end up sitting across from a man in his 50s with a loosened tie and kind eyes. His name tag says Mr. Green, volunteer attorney. "So Maya," he says, glancing at my form, "you've got questions about ownership and bills?" I swallow. "Yeah, my grandma left me a house, I think. She always said it was mine. My husband moved in a couple years ago. He pays some bills. He always says my house, my mortgage, and stuff like that. Makes it sound like if he left, I'd be back at my mom's. But last week I got a property tax bill in the mail. It only has my name on it. I don't know if that means anything." Mr. Green nods slowly. "Do you have that bill?" he asks. I dig into my purse with shaking fingers and pull out the folded statement like it's a secret note I'm passing in class. He looks it over, lips pursed. "Okay," he says. "This is a property tax statement. It lists the person the county has on record as the owner." "That's you. That's a good start. But for clarity, we'd want to see the deed itself. That's the document that actually transfers ownership. Sometimes there are multiple names. Do you know where that is?" I think of the dark closet, the tubs, my grandma's plastic folder that slipped through my fingers that night. I think it's at my house somewhere," I say, "but I'm not sure." He smiles, patient. "All right, even if you don't have your copy, we can pull it from the county records," he says. "It's public." "Give me the address?" I tell him. He types it into his laptop, clicks through a couple of screens, then leans in. "Here we go. Parcel number, recording date. Aha, deed." He turns the screen slightly so I can see. It's just black text on a white background. Boring, official language about grants and covenants and party of the first part. But in the middle of all that legal soup, my name appears. "Hereby grants, bargains, sells and conveys unto Maya Elaine Johnson." Just me. "Do you see your husband's name anywhere on this document?" Mr. Green asks gently. I scan the text again, heart racing. "No Marcus. No and spouse. No," I whisper. He sits back. "Then, as far as the county is concerned, you are the sole owner of that property," he says. "If your grandmother deeded it to you alone, that means the house is legally yours. Your husband living there, contributing to maintenance or bills, doesn't automatically put his name on the deed. I stare at him. The words sink in slowly, like water into dry ground. Sole owner. Legally yours. It's not that I didn't know it, I just never heard it said out loud by someone who could point to the law while they said it. But he always says, I start, then stop myself. Mr. Green nods, filling in the rest. He says it's his house because he pays bills, he finishes. I hear that a lot in here, especially from women who inherited property. Let me be very clear, Maya. Paying some utilities or even contributing to the mortgage does not give someone automatic ownership of your deed. They may have certain rights if you separate, financial claims, marital property issues, but that's a different conversation. The land, the structure, the title, that's you. Your name carries weight. I feel something prick behind my eyes. I blink fast. So he can't just put me out? I ask, voice small. Like change the locks and tell me to leave? Legally, no, Mr. Green says, his tone firm. Only a court can remove you from property you own, through a proper process. If he tried to throw you out or threatened to, that could be an illegal lockout. And if he's using money and the house to control you, that's something we can talk more about too. He slides his legal pad toward me. Right now, what I want you to do is this, he says. First, get a certified copy of your deed from the county clerk's office. It's a few dollars, but worth it. Keep one copy somewhere safe, and maybe scan another to email yourself. Second, stop letting him be the only person with eyes on your accounts. You don't have to confront him today. But you do need access to your own financial life. And third, he hesitates, choosing his words. If he's threatening you with the house, if you ever feel unsafe, I want you to consider talking to the protective order folks upstairs, he says. There are ways the court can back up the fact that this house is yours. You don't have to let his voice be the only law inside those walls. When I walk out of the annex an hour later, I'm holding a printout of the deed and a small stack of brochures I didn't plan to take. One about protective orders, one about financial abuse, one about community resources for women in unhealthy relationships. Unhealthy. It's such a clean word for something that feels like breathing secondhand smoke every day. In the car, I sit with my hands on the steering wheel, staring at the printout. My name is there again, in black and white. Maya Elaine Johnson. The same name that's on my badge, my checks, my license. The same name my grandma used to write on birthday cards. Looped and flourished. Marcus's favorite line plays in my head. You're lucky I pay bills. For the first time, another voice answers back, just as clear. He's lucky you let him live in your house. I don't. Say that out loud. Not yet. When I get home, the house looks the same. The pecan tree is still dropping leaves on the lawn. The front steps still creak in the middle. The paint on the door is still chipped where my cousins used to bang it open. Marcus's truck is in the driveway. I take a deep breath, tuck the deed printout and the brochures deep into my bag under my stethoscope and lunch containers. Inside, the TV is on, volume too high, some game playing. He glances over the back of the couch when he hears the door. Where you been? He asks. Grocery store? Ran some errands, I say lightly, hanging my keys on the hook. Post office, county building, you know. He snorts, eyes already back on the screen. You and them lines, he says. Lucky, I pay these bills so you can take mornings off. The old me would have laughed, changed the subject, pushed the discomfort down. Today, I just walk down the hallway, hand brushing the wall. The drywall under my palm is cool and familiar. It doesn't feel like neutral ground anymore. It feels like something with my name on it. After that day at the clinic, the house didn't magically change. Marcus didn't suddenly turn into some cartoon villain twirling a mustache. In a house that isn't even legally mine. I kept my little secret close. On my next day off, I did exactly what Mr. Green told me to do. I went down to the county clerk's office, waited in a line that smelled like old carpet and cheap perfume, and asked for a certified copy of my deed. The clerk stamped it right in front of me. A heavy inked seal that made everything feel more real. I bought 3 copies. One went in a folder tucked behind my nursing textbooks in the bedroom. One went in my locker at work. The last one I scanned at the library and emailed to myself, hidden in a folder with a boring name. Tax stuff. It felt dramatic, like something out of a movie. But I'd lived enough real life to know movies got some things right. Paper matters. Marcus sensed something was different before he knew what. He'd walk into a room and find me already looking at the TV bill or the bank app I had finally logged back into. He'd say something slick, expecting me to shrink, and instead of arguing, I'd just go quiet, not quietly scared, quietly measuring. One night after dinner, it finally happened. He came in from the garage, smelling like oil and frustration, dropped a stack of papers on the table and said, "We need to talk about this house." My stomach flipped, but I kept my face neutral. "What about it?" I asked, wiping my hands on a dish towel. He tapped the paper with his index finger. "About making things official," he said. "Right now it's all messy, bills in my name, house in yours. People acting like I'm just visiting. That doesn't sit right with me. I'm the one keeping this place afloat." There it was. The story he'd been building in his head, spoken out loud. "I talked to my guy," he continued, "a lawyer. He said we should come in, sign some papers, get my name on things. That way it's fair if anything happens. I already made the appointment, Friday at 3. You off that day, right?" My first instinct was to stutter, to explain, to say I needed time. But Mr. Green's voice from the clinic floated back. "You don't have to confront him today, but you do need access to your own financial life. And then, there are ways the court can back up the fact that this house is yours." I took a breath. "What kind of papers?" I asked. He shrugged. "Deed stuff, marriage stuff. Don't worry about it," he said. "He's used to dealing with couples like us. You just sign where he tells you. You want me to keep paying these bills? We gotta do it right." There was that line again. "You're lucky I pay bills." I folded the dish towel, buying a few seconds. "I'll go," I said finally, "but I'm not signing anything until I understand what it is." He smirked, amused. "See, that's why I got the lawyer. So somebody who understands can explain it. You just relax and let me handle it, like I've been doing." That night, I sat on the edge of the bathtub with the shower running, phone pressed to my ear, steam fogging the mirror. Mr. Green picked up on the second ring. "Legal clinic, this is Green." "It's Maya," I whispered. "From last week, with the deed." He remembered me. I told him about Marcus's guy, about the Friday appointment, about the papers I was supposed to sign. He listened quietly, then sighed. "All right," he said. "Couple of things. 1, you never sign something you don't understand. 2, you're allowed to have your own counsel in that room. His lawyer is not your lawyer. Do you understand that?" I did now. "I can't represent you formally without a full intake," he continued, "but I can be in the meeting as your counsel if you'd like. Or, at minimum, we sit down before and go over what you should and shouldn't agree to. When is this appointment again?" "Friday at 3. He clicked his pen. "I'm free at 2, he said. "Come by the annex first. Bring whatever he gave you. If he didn't give you anything, that's information too." Friday came faster than I wanted. By 2 o'clock, I was back in that fluorescent room, certified deed in my bag, stomach doing cartwheels. Mr. Green spread everything out on the table. "Here's the bottom line," he said, tapping the deed. "He can ask you to sign a new deed adding his name as co-owner or even transferring part of your interest. You are under no legal obligation to do that. If you choose not to, the law will still treat this as your separate property, regardless of how many times he says, 'my house.'" "What if he gets mad?" I asked quietly. He met my eyes. "Getting mad is not a legal argument," he said. "And if his anger ever crosses into threats or violence, the protective order folks are upstairs. Remember that." I nodded, throat tight. Do you want me there? He asked. At the meeting? For a second, I pictured Marcus's face when he walked in, expecting me to be alone, and found a lawyer sitting next to me. Something in my chest straightened up. Yes, I said. I do. The other office was everything the clinic wasn't. Glass doors, shiny floors, and a sense of calm authority. Leather chairs, receptionist with perfect nails tapping on a sleek keyboard. Marcus was already there, leaning back in a chair like he owned the building. There she is, he said, standing up quickly when I walked in. Babe, this is what I was telling you about. We get this done. No more questions about who carries what. You're lucky I... He stopped mid-sentence when he saw Mr. Green behind me. Who's this? He frowned. This is my attorney, I said, feeling my voice surprise even me with how steady it sounded. I wanted someone to explain things to me too. For a heartbeat, the air in the lobby went thick. Then the receptionist smiled professionally. I'll let Mr. Daniels know everyone's here, she said, picking up the phone. Marcus leaned in close, dropping his voice. You really had to do all that? He muttered. Bringing some random clinic dude in here like I'm trying to scam you? This is why I say you don't respect what I do. I met his eyes. If everything is fair, there shouldn't be a problem with me having someone explain it, I replied. Right? He scoffed, looked away. Whatever, man. Let's just get this done, he said. We were shown into a polished conference room with a long table and art on the walls that probably cost more than my car. Marcus's lawyer, a tall man in a navy suit, came in with a folder under his arm and a practiced smile. Good afternoon, he said, shaking hands. I'm Mr. Daniels. So, we're here to talk about putting some things in order for the house. Yes? He glanced at Marcus. Like I explained on the phone. Marcus jumped in. I pay the mortgage and the bills, but the house is in her name 'cause of her grandma. We just want to make it official. Joint, you know? I don't want to be out here investing in something I got no rights to. You feel me? He looked at Mr. Daniels like they were teammates. You're lucky I pay bills, he added with a little laugh. If I walked out, she'd be stuck. He said it right there, in front of two lawyers, like it was cute. Something in me went very still. Mr. Daniels nodded in that non-committal way lawyers have. I completely understand wanting clarity, he said smoothly. Before we talk options, let's look at what we're starting from. Do you have a copy of the deed? I reached into my bag before Marcus could answer and slid the certified copy across the table. Right here, I said. Mr. Daniels put on his reading glasses and scanned it. He read the legal description, the date, then stopped at the names. His eyebrows lifted by a millimeter. All right, he said slowly. So this is a warranty deed transferring the property from your grandmother to Maya Elaine Johnson. He looked up. Is there a second deed somewhere else with Mr. Johnson's name? He asked. Marcus shifted in his seat. Nah, man, that's what I'm saying, he said. It's just her on there. But I've been paying the mortgage and everything. It's basically my house too, you know? She's lucky I... Mr. Green cleared his throat. With respect, sir, he said, voice calm but firm. Paying certain expenses related to a property does not automatically place your name on the deed. Legally speaking, this document shows Ms. Johnson as the sole owner. Mr. Daniels nodded. That's correct, he said. As of now, the county recognizes Ms. Johnson. Johnson as the only title holder. Any change to that would require her signature on a new deed. Her choice. He said those last two words clearly. Her choice. The room went quiet. Marcus's jaw tensed. What are you talking about? He snapped. We're married. That's my house too. I pay the mortgage every month. I fixed that roof with my own hands. Marriage gives you certain marital rights, Mr. Daniels replied, still very controlled. But it doesn't retroactively put your name on premarital property. If your wife does not wish to convey part of her interest, you cannot force her. At best, you might have a claim for contributions if you separate, but that's a different matter. Right now, the deed says what it says. He taxed the paper. "According to the records, this house has never been in your name at all, sir." He didn't say it exactly that blunt, but that's what every word added up to. I watched Marcus's face change. The confidence cracked first. Then came the disbelief. "You mean to tell me I've been out here paying all this stuff and I don't own nothing?" he demanded. "That don't even make sense. So what, she can just put me out?" Mr. Green spoke up again. "She, as the documented owner, has the right to control who lives in her home," he said. "If you attempted to remove her, that would be an unlawful lockout. If she feels unsafe because of threats tied to the house or the bills, she can ask the court for protection. I see that happen more than you think." Marcus looked between the two lawyers like he'd just discovered the game was playing by rules he never bothered to learn. His favorite sentence died on his tongue. "For the first time since he moved into my grandma's house, the power in the room wasn't tilted his way. It was lying right there on the table, pressed into a piece of paper with my name on it." Leaving that office, the sky looked different. Same parking lot, same cracked asphalt, same faded handicap lines. But my world had tilted half an inch. Marcus walked ahead of me, jaw clenched so tight I could hear his teeth grind. He didn't open my car door like he usually did when he was in provider mode. He went straight to the driver's side, slid in, and gripped the steering wheel like it had offended him. I got in on my side and buckled my seatbelt in silence. For a minute, the only sound was the air conditioner kicking in and the faint whoosh of cars passing on the main road. Then he said quietly, "You really sat there and let that man talk to me like that?" I stared out the windshield. "He didn't say anything that wasn't already on the paper," I replied. "He just read it." "You brought him," Marcus snapped, turning to look at me. "You went behind my back, got some courthouse lawyer to make me look stupid in front of my own attorney. You know how disrespectful that is?" I thought about all the times he had said, "You're lucky I pay bills," in front of my family, my friends, his boys on the porch. I thought about him calling it my house, with my grandma's picture hanging over his shoulder. "You weren't supposed to be surprised," I said quietly. "If you knew it was my house, why act like it's yours?" His laugh was short and ugly. "It's ours," he said. "That's the whole point. But you had to make a show, didn't you? Had to embarrass me over some paperwork, like they care who actually pays what. That paperwork is the reason you can't just throw me out when you're mad," I said a little stronger. "The reason I have somewhere to sleep tonight." He gripped the wheel, knuckles whitening. "I never said I'd throw you out," he muttered. "I just said you'd be nowhere without me. That's facts." "No," I said, "that's control." We drove home in silence after that, both of us staring straight ahead. The air between us felt thick, like a storm that hadn't broken yet. The shift was subtle at first. He didn't bother with the "you're lucky I pay bills" joke that night. Instead, he went quiet mean. Short answers, heavy footsteps. Cupboard doors banged just a little too hard. Over the next week, every time his phone buzzed with a notification, he'd make sure to sigh loudly. "These bills don't care about your feelings," he'd mutter, just loud enough for me to hear. "Somebody's got to take care of business while you play lawyer." If I asked a simple question, "Did the gas bill come?" he'd snap, "Why don't you ask your little courthouse friends? Apparently you know everything now." He stopped kissing my forehead when he left for work, stopped texting me on his breaks, stopped sitting next to me on the couch. He'd take the other chair instead, screen glow reflecting off his angry face. The house felt like a war zone with no obvious weapons. The worst part wasn't the yelling. It was the way he tried to make the ground under my feet feel shaky again. One night, about a week after the lawyer meeting, it boiled over. I got off a late shift, came home exhausted, and found 3 envelopes propped against the salt shaker on the kitchen table. Light, water, internet. All opened, all empty. No bills inside, just the torn tops. My heart thudded. "Marcus?" I called. He appeared in the doorway, leaning against the frame, arms crossed. "You happy now?" he said. What is this? I asked. This is me being done, he replied. You wanted your own house? Your own name on the deed? Congratulations. Handle your own bills too. He gestured to the empty envelopes. I called and took my name off everything I could, he continued. Autopay, cards, all of it. Next month, when the lights go off, don't look at me. You got your little deed. Deed can't keep you warm. My hands started to shake. You canceled the utilities? I asked, incredulous. I stopped paying for them, he corrected. Big difference. Call them back if you want. Put it all in your name. See how easy it is to be the grown-up? I stared at him. This is our home, Marcus, I said. We both live here. He scoffed. Nah, he said. Apparently this is your house, right? That's what you wanted in front of those lawyers, to make sure everybody knows I'm just a guest. He pushed off the doorway and stepped closer. You think you can humiliate me like that and nothing changes? He demanded. You think you can get some old dude in a $30 tie to tell me I don't know nothing and I'm just going to keep carrying you? The old me would have tried to smooth it over, to say it wasn't about humiliation, just clarity, just legal stuff. The new me heard Mr. Green's voice in my head. If he's using money in the house to control you, that's something we can talk more about too. If you want to stop paying, fine, I said, throat tight. But don't act like you were doing me a favor out of the goodness of your heart. We both work. I can call the companies. I can put things in my name. He smiled then, a cold, slow curl of his lip. Yeah? He said. You go ahead and call them. Tell them you need all the accounts switched over because your man is done being played. See how that sounds? And then he paused away. Then while you're at it, he added over his shoulder, remember who fixed that leak in the roof, who painted these walls, who put in that new stove. House might be in your name, but my sweat is in every inch. He walked off, leaving his words hanging like cobwebs in the hallway. I stood there shaking, not from fear this time, but from a kind of furious clarity. This wasn't about money. It was about power. He didn't like that a piece of paper and a lawyer's voice had leveled the field. So he was trying to tilt it again, using the only lever he thought he had, the monthly bills. The next morning, before my shift, I drove to the same bank where my paycheck always landed and asked to speak to a manager. She was a black woman maybe 10 years older than me, with locks pulled back into a bun and a calm, no-nonsense voice. Her name tag said Miston, Carter Branch Manager. How can I help you, Miss Johnson? She asked, once we were in her little glass office. My eyes burned a little. I need to make sure I can see and control my own money, I said. And I need to know exactly what's coming out of my accounts. I've been letting my husband handle everything, and I realized that's not safe for me. She didn't blink. All right, she said. First, we're going to reset your online banking, just for you. New password, new email. Second, we're going to list every automatic payment that's attached to your account, and you're going to decide what stays and what goes. Third, she paused, lowering her voice. If there's any point you feel your safety is at risk because of how someone is using money to control you, I'm going to suggest you talk to someone at the courthouse, she added. We work with them all the time. You're not the first woman to sit in that chair with this story. By the time I left, I had my own login, my own printed list of expenses, and the number for a domestic violence advocate tucked into my pocket on a little folded card. The advocate called herself Janelle. She didn't sound shocked by anything I told her about the "you're lucky I pay bills" speeches, the canceled utilities, the way he threatened, in a roundabout way, to make me regret ever going to that legal clinic. Economic abuse is real, baby, she said bluntly. It's one of the biggest ways they keep you stuck. The fact that you own that house puts you in a stronger position than most. We can build on that. What does that even look like? I asked. I don't want to blow everything up. I just don't want to be scared in my own home every time he gets mad about money. Sometimes it's safety planning, she said. Sometimes it's a protective order. Sometimes it's asking a judge to give you exclusive use of the home, so he has to leave if things get ugly. That paper, she paused, that deed with your name? Judges like paper. Paper talks louder than men yelling about bills. Her words stuck with me. Things did get uglier. The first time he threatened to change the locks while you at work, he said it with a smirk, like a joke. The second time, he wasn't smiling. One Friday morning, after we argued because I called the electric company myself and put the account in my name, he stood in the doorway, blocking it with his arms. "You keep acting like I'm the enemy," he said, voice low and dangerous. "You forget who upgraded this place from your granny's museum. Keep playing with me, Maya, and you'll find your stuff on the lawn when you get back from your little clinic job." A year ago, that would have frozen me. Now, my hand slid into my scrub's pocket and closed around the little folded card with the advocate's number. I stepped back, keeping my voice even. "If you ever put my things on the lawn, I'll call the police and show them the deed with my name," I said, "and I'll tell them exactly how long you've been threatening me in my own house." We stared at each other. For the first time, I saw something like calculation in his eyes. He was measuring how much of his old power he still had over me. Eventually, he moved aside, muttering, "You wouldn't dare." I went to work. On my lunch break, instead of scrolling my phone, I sat in my car and filled out paperwork on my lap. A petition for a temporary protective order. In the section that asked, "What happened?" I wrote about more than just bills. I wrote about the words, "You're lucky I pay bills. You'd be on the street without me. You'll find your stuff on the lawn." I wrote about the canceled accounts, the way he tried to punish me for learning the law, the threats to change locks, the blocking of doorways. In the section that asked, "Where do you live?" I wrote my address and in capital letters, "I am the sole owner of the home. My grandmother deeded it to me. He uses the house and bills to control and threaten me." The next Tuesday, I stood in front of a judge in a plain courtroom that smelled like old wood and worry. It was just me, the judge, a clerk, and a bailiff by the door. Marcus wasn't there. This was just for the temporary order. I held my deed in my hand like a shield. The judge read my petition quietly, then looked up at me. "Miss Johnson, you're saying this man has used financial control and threats tied to the home to intimidate you?" he asked. "Yes, Your Honor," I said, voice shaking. "He tells me I'd be homeless without him. He threatened to put my things outside. He talks about changing the locks while I'm at work. He canceled utilities to punish me for getting legal advice. And this is my house. My grandma left it to me. I don't want it to turn into something worse." The judge nodded slowly. "You brought your deed today?" he asked. I stepped forward and handed it over. He scanned it and handed it back. "All right," he said. "Given what you've described, I'm going to grant a temporary protective order. It will state that he cannot harass, threaten, or intimidate you, and that he must not interfere with your access to the home or your utilities. I'm also granting you exclusive use and possession of the residence for now. That means if there's any dispute, law enforcement is going to treat you as the person who has the right to be there." The words washed over me like warm water. Exclusive use, law enforcement, right to be there. "You'll need to arrange for service," the judge added. "A deputy will give him the paperwork. If you're concerned about the move-out, you can request a civil standby. That's when officers are present while someone collects their belongings. Understand?" I nodded, tears blurring the edges of his robe. "Yes, sir," I whispered. The day the sheriff came was strangely quiet. No dramatic storm, no thunder, just a gray sky and a chill in the air. 2 deputies in tan uniforms pulled up in separate cars. They knocked on the door like any visitor. Marcus opened it, saw the badges, and straightened up, trying to puff himself bigger. "What's this about?" he demanded. "Mr. Marcus Hill?" one deputy asked. "Yeah." The deputy handed him a folded packet of papers. "You've been served with a temporary protective order," he said. "It says here Miss Johnson has been granted exclusive possession of the residence for now. We're here to supervise while you collect your personal belongings." Marcus's eyes scanned the first page, then flew to me standing in the hallway behind them. "You did this?" he snarled. I swallowed. "I protected myself," I said. "In my house." He laughed, but there was no real humor in it. "You really called the white folks on me over some bills?" he said, voice shaking. "Over me paying for things in your precious house?" One of the deputies cleared his throat. "Sir, this isn't about the bills," he said. "This is about the order. We're going to give you some time to pack clothing and personal items. Furniture stays for now. You can talk to the court about anything else later." For once, his favorite line didn't work. He started to say it out of habit, "She's lucky and then stopped, realizing maybe for the first time that luck had nothing to do with what was happening. This was paper, law, consequences. He stomped through the bedroom, pulling drawers open, stuffing clothes into trash bags. The deputies followed, making sure he didn't take anything he wasn't supposed to. At one point, he grabbed the flat-screen TV off the dresser. "That's mine," he snapped. "I bought this. She can watch the wall." "Actually, sir, the judge's order says no major items leave today," the deputy said calmly. "You can address property disputes through your lawyers. Right now, you take clothes, toiletries, personal effects. That's it." He glared at me over the top of the TV, daring me to intervene. I didn't. I just stood with my back straight, deed copy in my purse, the protective order folded in my hand. 30 minutes later, he stood on the porch with 2 overstuffed bags and a box of sneakers, breathing hard. "This isn't over," he muttered. "You think a piece of paper gonna save you?" I met his eyes, feeling the fear and the old love and the anger and the grief all tangled up inside me. "It already did," I said softly. The deputies escorted him to his car. He threw the bags in the back, slammed the door, and peeled out of the driveway, tires squealing. The sound faded. The quiet that followed wasn't empty. It was full of my grandma's voice in my head, of Mr. Green's calm explanations, of Janelle's blunt truth, of the judge's firm words. Exclusive use and possession of the residence. I closed the front door gently and leaned my back against it. For the first time since he moved in, the house felt like it exhaled with me. The first night after he left, I slept with every light on, not because I was scared he'd come back, because I could. I walked through the house like I was seeing it for the first time. The crooked picture of my grandma in the hallway, the dent in the baseboard where my little cousin drove his toy truck too hard, the faint stain on the ceiling from that old leak he always bragged about fixing. For years, Marcus's voice had been louder than all of that. Now the house had its own kind of quiet, not empty, just finally allowed to breathe. The next few weeks were a strange mix of paperwork and healing. I went back to court for the full protective order hearing. This time, Marcus showed up with a different kind of swagger, more brittle, less sure. He tried to tell the judge it was all a misunderstanding, that he was just frustrated about money, that he never meant to scare me, that I was overreacting. The judge listened, then turned to me. "Ms. Johnson, do you still want this order?" he asked. I thought about the way Marcus had blocked the doorway, the way he'd said, "You'll find your stuff on the lawn," the way he'd canceled utilities just to watch me scramble. "Yes, Your Honor," I said. "I do." The judge nodded. "Given the financial control, the threats tied to the home, and the fact that you are the recorded owner of the property, I'm granting a 12-month protective order," he said. "It will remain in effect unless modified by this court." Marcus's face fell. He looked at me like I'd just flipped a table over his whole life. Outside the courtroom, he tried to catch my arm. "So that's it?" he demanded. "You just erase me?" After everything I did in that house, the bailiff stepped between us before he could get close. I met his eyes over the bailiff's shoulder. "You're not erased," I said quietly. "You just don't get to write over my name anymore." He scoffed, muttered something under his breath, and walked away. I watched him go without that familiar ache in my chest. It hurt, but it wasn't the old pain of, maybe I should have tried harder. It was the clean pain of stitches closing a wound. After that, the house and I had to learn each other again. I put the utilities in my name one by one. The customer service reps would always ask, "Are you the homeowner?" "Yes," I'd say, every time. "I am." The first light bill that came with just my name on it, I didn't shove it in a drawer and wait for someone else to handle it. I sat at the kitchen table, logged into my online banking, and paid it. The number on the screen wasn't small. The feeling was big. Not pride exactly, more like alignment. I started fixing little things he always used as proof that I needed him. That leaky faucet in the bathroom, I watched 3 videos, turned the water off, and changed the cartridge myself. It took me an hour and a half and 1 panicked phone call to my uncle. But when the drip stopped, I laughed out loud. Not because of the faucet, but because there was no one in the next room waiting to say, "You're lucky I." No one to finish that sentence but me. You're lucky you tried. You're lucky you didn't let fear keep you from learning. The county tax statement came again in the fall. Same off-white envelope, same boring font. I opened it at the same table where Marcus used to swagger and slam his keys down. Owner of record, Maya E. Johnson. This time, I didn't feel like I was doing something wrong by looking at it. I took a picture and sent it to Janelle, the advocate, with a little message. "Made my payment today. In full. No speeches attached." She responded with 3 clapping emojis and, "This is what freedom looks like. Proud of you, sis." It wasn't all smooth. There were days I sat on the edge of my bed and cried because the quiet felt heavy instead of peaceful. Days when an unexpected expense, car trouble, a medical copay, made me miss the illusion of having someone else take care of everything, even if the price was my dignity. On those days, I pulled out the deed. Not to stare at my name in some dramatic way, but to remind myself of the story behind it. My grandma working double shifts, her saving coins in jars, her signing that paper with my name on it so that no man could ever decide whether I had a roof over my head. I started going to a small support group Janelle ran on Thursday nights. A circle of women with different faces, different stories, but the same theme. I thought I was lucky. I thought I owed him. I thought without him I'd have nothing. I listened for weeks before I shared. When I finally spoke, the words surprised me. "I used to think the hardest part was leaving," I said, fidgeting with my bracelet. "Turns out the hardest part was admitting that you're lucky I pay bills is not love. It's a leash." The women nodded, some with tears in their eyes. One of them, an older lady with silver hair and a strong voice, squeezed my hand. "Baby," she said, "anybody who uses what they do for you as a weapon is not a blessing. They're a bill you can't afford." That line stayed with me. I started making small, practical moves, not just emotional ones. I met with a financial counselor through a community program. We made a plan, emergency fund first, then small repairs, then maybe one day using the second bedroom as a rented room or short-term stay to help with the mortgage. I updated my will, not because I had a lot, but because what I did have, a modest house with peeling paint and a stubborn pecan tree, had been fought for by 2 generations of Black women. I wasn't going to let it fall into the hands of somebody who thought a monthly bill made him king. Months later, I was closing the curtains one evening when I saw a familiar car parked across the street. Marcus. He wasn't supposed to contact me. The protective order said that in big, bold letters. But there he was, sitting in his old truck, hands on the steering wheel, staring at the house. My heart did a little flip. Not out of wanting, out of old habit. I picked up my phone and snapped a quick photo through the glass. Then I stepped away from the window and called Janelle. "Do I call the police?" I asked, feeling my pulse race. Does the order say no contact, no coming near the residence? She asked. Yes. Then, yes, she said calmly. You do. You don't go outside. You don't wave. You let the paper do the talking this time. By the time the patrol car turned onto the street, his truck was gone. I showed the officers the photo, the timestamp, the order. They took it seriously. We'll document it, one said. If he keeps playing around the edges, the judge will see a pattern. You did the right thing calling. After they left, I stood on the porch for a second, looking at the space his truck had been. There was a time I would have run down the steps, banged on his window, begged him to come inside and talk it out. Now, I walked back in, locked the door, and made myself tea. He could circle the block all he wanted. The law, the deed, and my own boundaries were a bigger fence than any gate he used to brag about installing. One Sunday afternoon, about a year after he'd been served, I was sitting at the same kitchen table answering YouTube comments on my phone. I'd started telling my story online, piece by piece, not just the drama, but the quiet lessons. How to check the deed records in your county, how to read a property tax statement, how to recognize the difference between a partner and a warden. Women from all over were writing things like, I thought I was the only one. My baby daddy says the same line about bills. I just checked my deed today and my name is the only one there. I cried. As I typed replies, you're not alone. Paper is power. Please stay safe. I heard the mail truck outside. Old reflex. I still got up and went to the mailbox. But this time there was no rush, no anxiety about whether I'd beat him to it. The metal door creaked. Inside was a small stack of envelopes. Light company, city water, county tax office. I held them in my hand, feeling their weight. Then I laughed softly to myself. In my head, I heard his voice one last time. You're lucky I pay bills. I walked back up the path, pecan leaves crunching under my shoes, and answered out loud, just for me, no, I'm lucky I learned they were mine. That night, when I recorded the outro for the video about my story, I looked straight into the camera and spoke to whoever needed to hear it. If somebody is using money or a roof over your head to make you feel small, I said, that's not security, that's control. Your name is not a favor, it's a fact. And facts? I smiled, thinking of my deed, the judge's order, Miss Carter's calm voice. Mr. Green's printout. Facts will hold you up long after their ego runs out. Then I took a breath and slipped back into my usual ending. Did you like this life story? I asked softly. Where are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If my journey helped you even a little, you can support me with a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. On the screen, you'll see 2 more powerful life stories I highly recommend. There's so much more on the channel. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you in the next life story. With love and with respect for your name on your own life.